Hey everyone, welcome back to CyberSecurityTV. This is episode 3 of the Unvalidated Redirect Vulnerability. In this episode, we're gonna talk about the different types of encoding, or I would say multi-encoding. How a developer can use this, to obfuscate some part of the URLs, and still it's why it's not secure, and how as a pen tester what you should be looking for, and how you should test, and something best practice that should be followed by every developer. Again, a quick announcement: the file upload source code has been uploaded to the Facebook page, so please click on the link down in the description to check this out and also try it yourself. Now, in the previous episode, we talked about the encoding, right? So you can also encode this redirect parameter using URL encoding, using hex encoding. Now, there is another form of encoding, which is Base64 encoding. Now, this is so in the previous scenario, we talked like those URL encoding and everything would be used by the attacker or the phisher as a pen tester to lure the victim, or to obfuscate that part of the URL. Now the base64 encoding is something that's usually used by the developer while developing the application. So the good example of this is JWT, right? So that particular token, JWT token, is usually encoded into base64, and when you say encoded, of course it can be decoded. There are tons of online tools available which could be decoded and see what's the information in the token by decoding, and if there is any sensitive information or something like that. So that's something you can always check it out. Now in this example, what we're gonna see is the user or the developer has encoded the value of whatever the URL parameter, right? And they have just not used the base64, they have used the multiple encoding. So they have used URL encoding, they have used the base64 encoding, and they are doing the same thing while decoding as well. Now you would see this sort of information when you are using some famous websites like google.com or something. In the URL form, you will see a long string of alphanumeric characters, which would not make sense to you because pretty much probably they are encoded. Now you can encode this string as a developer. That's completely fine if this does not has any sensitive information. But if it does, then that's a really bad practice to encode it and believe that pen tester or the attacker is not going to find it. Now let's take a look at the demo and see how this is used, and how as a pen tester you can use and try and perform this redirect vulnerability. And then we'll also see in the next slide how to prevent, or what are the different things as a pen tester you should be testing as well. So this is our page. This is the same page that we have been using. The only thing is now the developer is doing multiple encoding. So now if you click on this link, of course this is going to be this is going to redirect us to their Facebook page. But then again, what else we can see here is if we right click and copy this link location, and let's say if we have a lift pad, yes, if you paste in here, so instead of just facebook.com and our page, this is actually some random characters, like alphanumeric characters. Now if we decode this one, and because in this case we know it's a URL and base64 combination, but of course you have to try different ones to kind of figure it out what developer has used while you are doing the pen testing. So I'm just gonna use burp. Of course there are tons of other tools that you can use, but I'm just gonna use this one because it's a handy tool. So if I paste this link, right, and let's say first decode as URL, right, so this is the URL decoding, and now we're gonna also decode as a base64, and here we can see this is a facebook.com and infosec for starters. That's what the developer is doing, and that's why it's very hard to see for a normal user to see what is going on in the actual parameter. Now as a pen tester, right, if you want to let's try this. Instead of this page, you want user to be redirected, so you post this link and you want user to be redirected to google.com. Now you copy this, right, and let's paste it here. It's not gonna work because the server is expecting the encoded URL or encoded URL parameter value. So now what we need to do is, let's type w.google.com. Okay, we need to put the HTTPS. Now first we're gonna encode as a base64, right, and then we'll encode it again with the URL encoding. Now copy this and let's replace this one with a copied value. Okay, and now let's copy this and paste in here. Alright, there you go. So now we redirected on the google.com. So this is the simplest example on how as an developer they can use the separate different encoding techniques and to kind of hide some information. But now when you're doing the pen testing, right, so what you need to do is you have to review all the parameters and its value, because you don't know what developer is doing. If it's a random string, it might not be a random string, it's just the encoded portion of the payload. So that's why you need to review all of this and need to figure out whether this is something maybe a sensitive information, or maybe something as simple as redirection that the developer is doing. So you can easily steal the information. As an attacker, you can steal the information from this parameter by decoding. And also what else you can do is you can also replace this as we saw, for the phishing attacks, phishers can use this one to replace the parameter part of it and encode it and re-encode and then send it to the user, so it will become obfuscate for the normal human being to see it, and they'll click on it and the phishing attack would happen. Now as a developer, encoding should never be used to store the sensitive information. Encoding is a two-way. So once you encode, a smart pen tester or a hacker would easily be able to determine what's a decoding technique. Of course, it might take multiple iterations. So in this example, it was just two encoding. Maybe a developer would be smart enough to do hex encoding, base64, and a URL encoding combination. But then, as a a full-time pen tester, or someone who is very determined, can easily figure it out by trying different combination that what encoding techniques have been used. So do not use encoding. Always use hashing if you are going to send some sensitive information, right? And as we saw in the earlier example as well, whenever you encode something, that becomes obfuscate for the end users as well. So if that's intention of the application, then it's good. But if it's not, then make it a simple, a normal parameter value if it's not something sensitive, right? But never ever send any cookie information like JWT in the session tokens or something in the URL, or in the in the response, or and also never store any sensitive information into the JWT token as well, because that's something that the attacker can easily decode and see all the information. So now that's all I had in plan discussing in this week. Hopefully you have been enjoying our weekly episode so far. If you do, please hit the thumbs up button at the bottom of the video, and also leave the comments if you have anything. I'll be at the OWASP conference this week. If you are guys around, let me know. We'll definitely try to catch up Thank you again for your time. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.